Hey everybody, I am here with Nick Diener from Wonder Pedals. Nick,
Hello.
we have a long history together.
We do.
And you know, if you've been paying attention to the Reverend website for years, you've seen this guy before. Nick, let's start with a brief history of your playing career. Fire away.
All right. I started playing guitar when I was 10, and my brother started playing drums when he was 9.
Nice.
Because I needed a buddy. And my dad was like, well, you know, I want you to be able to do something with your brother. And this was back when we were kind of afraid to be in the basement. It was still a little dark and dingy. And eventually we were like, all right, cool. We're just going to jam together. We'll keep the lights on. And then we both started getting better and better a lot sooner than we thought. And we pretty much threw all of our hobbies aside and we devoted our lives to music basically within that year.
So is this like a Van Halen thing, or did he start on drums and you started on guitar?
Oh yeah, he started on drums, I started on guitar. I was told specifically by my mom I was not allowed to touch his drums because I had to let my brother be good at something, which is not like a diss to my brother, but I would try to take over everything that he ever touched.
Jono, that was a diss.
Yeah,
I heard it.
But for real though, he got so good at drums. I own 2 drum sets now, and I'm terrible. I can't keep a beat to save my life. So, so my mom was right. You know, it led him on his career path and led me on mine. Yeah.
And so when did you guys start the Swellers?
He was 14, I was 15. So 5 years later.
Was that your first band?
Yeah, our first real band. We had a couple little, 2 to 3 month things, played some talent shows, but it was always, he and I. And then we called up our buddy Nate, who lived in Grand Rapids, and we had moved to the Fenton, Michigan area, which is near Flint. And we couldn't find anybody to jam with that wanted to do our thing. So we were like, hey, remember that guy from our old school? Whatever, let's be called the Swellers. I wrote it on my math homework. There's a band called South Bay Bessie in Flint, and they were like, oh, you got a new band? We have a show in 9 days. Want to play it? We were like, yeah.
Nice.
I had a little recording thing at my house. We did a 3-song demo, songs that I just kind of had floating off the top of my head. And yeah, so within 9 days, we had a demo CD, some songs on mp3.com, the old days.
Sure.
Not that old, I guess, but that was only around for a little bit, I think. And then,
and then it snowballed from there.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping to change our name at some point. It didn't happen, and we stayed a band for 13 years and toured the world. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was your first electric guitar?
I had a Washburn Lion series Strat copy, which a lot of people think it was like the Lion by Washburn, but it was a Washburn Lion series. Not a lot of them pop up on Reverb. It was actually a really nice guitar. I still have it in pieces.
Hilarious.
I'm kind of glad my parents kept it all these years.
Yeah, that's cool.
I kind of want to build like a parts caster out of it eventually, just to be like, yeah, that was my first jam. But soon after that, my dad is a total gearhead, doesn't play an instrument, loves guitars, loves amps. So I had like a Fender Jag Stang and a Fender Strat really early on. This was 97, 98.
Okay.
And then, soon after that, we kind of took all these guitars that he had bought me and we kind of traded them all in, and I got a Gibson Les Paul Standard, and I kind of became dual humbucker guy.
Right.
Hardtail.
Right.
Ever since.
Yeah, and that's what you were doing when I met you, and you were playing Ernie Balls, I think, when I met you too.
Yep.
So you guys pretty much took it right to the road right out of high school, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then and really then pretty much toured constantly for 10 years.
Yeah. The second my brother graduated high school, we were like, all right, we're going to do this full time. Because a lot of our peers were doing it full time, where they were like, you have to just stay on the road all the time. And I was also like, why would we do anything else?
Right.
Like, why would we waste our time? So on a tour, I'd be booking the next tour. And even though we were just touring the full U.S., a month later, we would have another full U.S., even the same venues, same promoters, ready to go.
Wow.
And then, the next year, a couple bands took notice, took us out. We went out with a Wilhelm Scream. We went out with Streetlight Manifesto twice. And a lot of people, you hear those stories of, like, you're not going to get to go on tour just because some guy in a band saw you play one time opening for their show in Seattle. That's what happened to us. Thomas from Streetlight thought we were nice, and thought we sounded good, and then extended the invitation to do like 2 U.S. tours with them. So it was kind of like, wait, what? This happens? And it was amazing to do a tour that I didn't have to book.
Yeah.
And then, we ended up signing to a bigger label. We got a booking agent, didn't really have to book our own things anymore. So we were like the busiest little band that no one had ever heard of, but we got to do a lot of cool stuff. Yeah.
How many records did you guys put out?
Let's see, 1, 2, 3. We had 4 full lengths, I want to say, and 2 EPs.
Now, you ended up sort of transitioning from being in the band and recording live to having your own recording studio and recording a lot of the bands that you worked with and a lot of the bands that you toured with and then a lot of up-and-coming bands at your studio in Michigan. And then you transitioned from that into sort of your pedal fascination and then starting the Wonder pedals. So when you were with the Swellers, did you sort of develop the foundation for wanting to be a studio guy?
Yeah.
Because it's a big difference from playing live to going to owning a recording studio.
Oh, yeah.
And you're one of the few people that I know that has had a good amount of success of both things.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
They both kept me busy for sure, and my best bud, Mark Mahalik, recorded most of our records, and I was always kind of peering over his shoulder, being like, what is this? What are you doing? And then we recorded with Bill Stevenson at the Blasting Room, and Bill was in Descendants and Black Flag and made so many huge records.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, they're gonna get somewhere someday.
Yeah.
And so basically being there, I was just like, man, I have to switch to the whole computer Pro Tools rig if I want to keep up. And then I can send these files to Mark or any of my other buds. Actually, Stefan from the Descendants mixed some of my stuff at one point, and I kind of did it out of necessity because I had 0 other skills, and I needed to pay the rent while I was home, which wasn't much. It was my brother and I living in a house in Flint, Michigan. So I would like record in the very smack dab middle of the house, make a couple $100. I was able to pay rent, and then boom, went on tour, came back, made a couple $100, paid rent, recorded a bit. It was kind of like that cycle. And when the band ended in 2015, I was like, oh, I have to be working guy now. Like I can't be just like bum laying on the floor. I literally laid on the floor for like a month after we stopped touring. It's the first time I ever unpacked my suitcase. I was like, I'm not going anywhere next. Because we were never home for more than 2 months at a time in, I think, 9 years. And my wife was just like, settle down. Like, this is your house. Enjoy your bed. Like, try to be a normal human. And I'm still not a normal human. But I did record a bunch of bands. And so knowing tone and enjoying guitars made it really easy to get good sounds recording. It's like, I know what I like. And of course you have imposter syndrome. You're like, wait, is what I like good? And then you kind of realize like, no. I'm going to trust myself. I started mixing a lot more. And then the pedal thing kind of came around at the perfect time, which was like 2 months pre-pandemic. So this little hobby became my full-time gig in 2020 completely by accident. And just kind of because I didn't want to have a whole bunch of people coming into my studio. I recorded a few records that were great. I had a lot of fun, but we were like, oh, everybody better test, and I kind of want to know you. Meanwhile, I'm kind of building pedals, and then, come tax time, I was like, oh, I made a lot more money building these little pedals. This is cool. 2021, I think a lot of bands decided we're not going to make records this year because we don't know when we're going to get to go out next. And I came out with a couple other pedals that did really well. And I was like, wow, okay. So when someone asks me what I do for a living, I'm not going to say this/. I'm just going to say, like, I have a pedal company.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I was kind of thrown into it. And of course, the imposter syndrome came back again. I'm like, I don't know electronics, but I do know what I like the sound of. Same thing with guitar. I don't know everything about music theory, but I know what sounds good to my ear, and I hope other people like it. And that's kind of all you can do.
Right.
Yeah.
So you and I started hanging out together towards the end of the Swellers career, and we have a mutual friend in Jay Navarro, who was a big supporter of your entire career since you were a kid, of course. And then I play in his band, and he introduced us, and you ended up getting a guitar from me, and that was the first of many. I mean, how many
Oh yeah,
Reverends.
because I think
it's ridiculous.
I was the annoying kid being like, "Hey, send me an endorsement. Like let's do this. Give me a deal." I don't think I asked for free gear because I knew better, but I was bored with what I was playing and I was looking to get inspired.
Yeah.
So when you're playing the same guitar forever, and then I think I was actually, I don't know if I ever told you this, I was crashing at some girl's house in Northern California, and her dad kind of walked into the room like, Michigan, huh? They make my guitars. And then he just whipped out 3 Reverend guitars. And I still remember it was a Manta Ray.
Wow.
And the old Gil Paris.
Okay.
And maybe one other one. And I was
Cool.
just like, I remember Reverend from Kid Rock in 1997, 98 in Guitar Player magazine ads. So I was like, that's a thing. Cool.
Yeah.
Looked it up on I don't even know if I had internet on my phone back then. Who knows? But yeah, I was,
back in the old days.
Yeah. So I was drooling over all the guitars. And
He got out the phone book and looked us up. The yellow pages.
Found your address, showed up to your door.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I got a Charger HB.
Yeah, I have you were pictured on our website with that Charger in the Swellers
hell yeah.
for a long time. Yeah.
And then a Sensei, maybe it was called the RT at the time.
RT with the Revtron pickups.
Yep, and that guitar, the neck got almost looked like somebody took a knife and just went into the back of the neck. And it still played great, and I played it for the rest of the tour. And I was like, oh no. And then my landlord saw that guitar hanging on the wall, because he actually owned the house.
Yeah.
And he goes, I really want one of those. And I said, do you want it for rent?
Whoa.
And I traded him that guitar for rent so I can buy my wife a wedding ring. So that's a pretty huge story.
Wow, man.
Yeah, I don't think I ever told you that either.
No, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yep. So he
Cool.
I think he still has that guitar, and also bought.
And you still have the wife?
Yeah,
Amazing.
I think so.
That is a that is a touching story.
Yeah, she lasted longer than a lot of my guitars, which is kind of how it should be.
It is how it should be. Yeah.
But yeah,
No doubt.
It's been great. And then when I started doing the studio thing full time, it became more, I need tools for the studio. So I got the Descent baritone, which
Nice.
I was kind of like, I need that thickening thing. That'll be fun.
And then that brought us into Railhammer land.
Railhammer land.
And what we have here is one of the Evertune equipped Air Sonics, and this one has the Billy Corgan signature Railhammers installed in it. And you know what we really want to do? We want to get into some sounds with his Red Ryder, the Wonder Red Ryder fuzz pedal.
Yes.
I mean, talk about your line a little bit here, because you're still making the Red Ryder. Obviously, it has some different cosmetics than what we've got in front of us here. I've got one of the early ones.
Yeah.
But you're doing a lot of different drives.
Yeah. So I started off with the Wonder Drive, which was supposed to be the Red Ryder.
Okay.
And 3 of the knobs and 1 of the switches sucked.
Okay.
And didn't do what they were supposed to. And I was so mad. And I set that pedal off to the side. And then I was recording a band called No Trigger, and we needed some gain sounds to kind of stack on top of some other stuff, some leads.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got this prototype. It's not going to be a thing. Maybe we could find a sound out of it. And I set the knobs a certain way, and we recorded a ton of guitar with it. And they said, this is great. We love the mid-range in this pedal.
Yeah.
So basically what I did was take that prototype that I really didn't like, the 3 knobs that I didn't like, that didn't have a good sweep, I took the circuit and I calculated it and I fixed all those knobs and 1 of the switches, and it became a 2-knob pedal called the Wonder Drive.
Okay.
And that's what it is today. So
Nice.
it's basically, it was a failed Red Ryder, completely different circuit, and we loved it. And people seem to really dig it. You could use it as sort of like a tube screamer sort of thing to goose another pedal or
Sure.
an amp. Or you could turn the gain, honestly, I turned both knobs all the way up, and it's through a clean amp, it just turns it into like almost like a fuzz for people who don't like fuzz, just a wall of fuzzy distortion with some clarity. So it's kind of my ideal sound, and I just called it the Wonder Drive. It was kind of my first thing. Then the Red Ryder, I was like, I need to take another crack at the Red Ryder. And one thing that I did early on was build Rat clones.
Okay.
And people would tell me,
hear that.
They're like, I don't know what it is, but I think your Rat is one of the best ones that I've played. And there's no reason for that other than maybe just so happen to pick the right components.
Sure.
And I was using the LM308, which a lot of people will say is mythical and has a vintage mojo. A lot of people will say there's no difference. But I was like, that's what I know, that's what I have, that's what people liked. I'm going to put that in the Red Ryder. So you might call it like sort of a rat-based pedal, but that's really only half of the circuitry that's in it. And then it has like a pre-gain low end, there's a clean blend, and then I have an asymmetrical diode sound and an LED diode sound in it. And recently, actually, I was going back and forth between an OP07 and the LM308, and because everybody's saying there's no difference audibly. And there's a difference.
You know, I don't know what any of that means.
There's a
so I get a lot of you. There's guys watching this right now, and you're watching this, and you know what he's talking about. Right. I don't, but I know I like it.
Yeah, oh, great. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So basically, there's one chip that's really expensive, and then there's one that's not at all.
Yeah.
The one chip that's in the newer Rats, and then the one that's in the ones from the 70s.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
I'm going to start offering both.
Cool.
They have a different sound, but this one's got the LM308, so it's got a. But you know what's most important is music should be fun.
Should be fun.
Whether it has.
I agree.
Whether that chip is magical or has a different sound or not, I like that I know that it's in there, and I think people like that too.
I like that too. Yeah.
Yeah, just like if someone magical played this guitar before me, this guitar might be magical in my eyes, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm the coolest one who's ever played this guitar. So just so you know. But yeah, the Red Ryder, and I actually have the low end contour kind of all the way up right now, which kind of makes it blow out a little bit.
It does, yeah.
So that's kind of a tighter thing. There it comes. And there's a 1K pot in there, which is not much of a change, but it's it's such a fine sweep.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times if you have too big of a pot and something like that, it'll all be bunched up at the very end. And it's like, oh, so 90% of that didn't do anything, and then at the very end, it's like, oop, there's the low end.
Cool.
So I really like the way that we kind of, and I was proud of myself. I'm not an electronics guy. I'm more of like a swap stuff out and hope it works, and and it did. So, and I love using the Red Ryder as sort of a kind of a low to mid gain thing.
Okay.
A lot of people wouldn't think of a Rat style pedal as being their kind of lower whatever drive, but yeah, even just kind of. I just love it. It's smooth.
Yeah.
And then if you goose it with something else, I love the word goose lately.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. So a lot of people like their first gain stage and then a second gain stage to make it gainier. I kind of do it the opposite.
Okay. Now I use it here a lot with the with the Tube Screamer ahead of it or the Charlie ahead of it to do single note stuff because I sit here and do a lot of looping things and stuff. And it's just a fun, really like just a lot of sustain with a lot of gain, and I dig it.
Right. Yeah.
So, real quick, you have more on the horizon.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is we're going to have you back. So this will be like installment number 1.
Oh, great.
And then like maybe 6 months from now, you can run in and we can come in and since we got all the history out of the way, why don't you come back in a couple months and bring a bunch of pedals and we'll just demo a bunch of stuff here.
I would love
have
to.
a hell of a good time with
I might have a lot more by then too.
Excellent.
There's like 7 things in the works. I've had the same 3 pedals just kind of chilling for a year, and it might get a little
nice.
hectic. Yeah.
I
might have to move in.
Yeah, do it. Yeah. Nick from Wonder.